Hello everyone, my name is Avkash and you are welcome to another tutorial where we are going to learn how to connect CoreUI React based frontend with Python and Flask based backend. In this tutorial, we are going to use the pre-existing Python and Flask based backend code, and we are going to clone the React CoreUI based frontend code directly from its GitHub repo. And in 5 steps, we are going to implement proxies configuration and adding the GET and POST API call from the React code so it could connect with the backend. And finally, we are going to use the both GET and the POST implementations in one of the pages where the views are being rendered and connecting to the backend API and collecting the GET and POST response and finally rendering it to the page. So it's a 5-step process to connect your CoreUI React based frontend to the backend in this tutorial. So let's get started. Here is the GitHub repo where the code from this tutorial will be available. The repo is public code and the folder is Python backend connect for the CoreUI. I have already created the detailed README file which have all these 5 steps needed to connect your CoreUI front-end code with the Python backend. In the same location, I also have the Python backend code accessible for you to check if that is your interest. The code is already there, so first we will validate this code working, means we will check Python code to make sure the APIs are accessible from command line as well as from web service. Here in the PyCharm IDE, I do have the same code accessible from my local machine, and that code is designed to run at port 8000. It also has 2 API created, v1 info and v1 hello. So let's start the server. Server is started, it's running on 8000. As you could see here that the same code is accessible to us, and if we say v1 hello, it is working, and if we say v1 info, both are working. It means the APIs are working and our code is working. If you are interested to learn how the Python backend code was created and how we have used the base Python 3.8 code and then we have added Flask component to it so we could use Python as a backend API server, please visit this tutorial, and this tutorial is going to assist you learning the whole Python backend which we are using in this project. I will also add the link to this tutorial so you could easily access it while going through with this particular tutorial. Once our Python code is checked, our next step is to clone the CoreUI React code. Here is the URL where CoreUI React admin template is available. Here is the Python backend connect local folder in my machine. I would be cloning it. So git clone, and let me get URL. The URL is, it's the URL, git clone, paste. Here is the CoreUI React admin template. Once we cloned it, we will go to CoreUI and npm install. After the installation is done, node modules are available in my local machine. I will start this npm start, and this development server is being started here. Server is started. And here you could see that default CoreUI template code is running here. Now we are going to open the CoreUI code in the Visual Studio Code IDE. Here is the code, CoreUI. So we are going to open this folder in Visual Studio IDE. I do have Visual Studio IDE window here. Here you can see that here in the prod ramp, public code, Python backend connect, and here is our CoreUI code, which we have just cloned and made it ready to work as our front-end code. The code is visible here. So we have both Visual Studio Code and the CoreUI open side by side. If you want to make sure that if this is the correct code, here you can see that the views, and here is the dashboard. Here is the dashboard code, which is visible here. And if you would want to make this change, you could make change here, traffic today, save it, and this traffic should update. There you go. It means this is the real code. We have it. Here in this GitHub repo where the code is going to be available for you, in the README, I already have these steps. So very first, you clone the code. Second, you are going to add the setup proxy. So setup proxy will be added at the root of src. So we are going to add this setupProxy.js, and we are going to add this code there. As you could see here, this code is required process.env.api server in the env file, and then whatever your server where your backend service is running, you have to add that value to it. So in the next step here in this root of our project, we are going to add env file is already here. Next, what we need to do, we need to add API server equals, this is our server. We have added this server, so env is ready. Setup proxy step is completed. Next, we need to create these two files where we are implementing GET and POST. In the src, create a new folder called API and create this file. And let's see what it is. Here you could see I'm implementing this get rest function where you need to pass the URL and you need to pass the object where you want the result of this API back to this object. Mode is codes, method, get method. So this is for only get. Here we are adding the content types and accept headers to the request, which is going to backend, checking the status after this processing, parsing the result, and if everything is okay, then result will be stored in this get result object. So this is a 4-step function. Check status is implemented here. It means we will check for HTTP status which is between 200 and under 300, and that's where its check is there. Parse JSON is there where they take the response and parses it and convert it into a JSON object, and then finally that object is available here. Quite simple function we have for the get, and this function will be used wherever you would want to connect to the backend. In the next step, we are going to do the same for the post request. As the post. Function is quite identical with one difference. Whenever you are going to make a post request, you need to send the post body data. So here you are sending the post body data, and that data is being converted into the stringification here, and then data is post through this body object. That's pretty much it is. Rest, the code is identical to the get, and whenever the you are going to get response from this API, the result will be stored in this post result object. And that's pretty much your get and post implementation within the API folder. In the next step, you are going to use the code in wherever you want, wherever you are going to implement the API. So in our example, we are trying to implement API here. So we could see the message coming out from backend rendered here. So let's take a look at the views and dashboard. Here is our dashboard code where we made some changes here. So as you could see here, this is a card body. So this is the card body and this is the row. So traffic is a row. And so what we can do is that we can add one more row here. As C row. And what we can do is that we can add, so that will be our response from the backend. And if you see here, the content should be updated, and as you could see, response from the Python backend, and that message is rendered here. So that's where it is. And then so this is these two row, and that's the, so that's will be our, okay. Next, we are going to use this place. We could render the return message here. Let's take a look. Very first, we need to import the get REST object and post REST object, which we have implemented in the API. So we need to import here. So we are importing. We have imported. Make sure that this connection is working correctly. API. So we are API, and then first one is a get, and then second one is post. So this connection is correct, everything. Now we are going to make these calls wherever our function is. So here is the dashboard method. So we are going to copy and paste this here, and we are creating two local state object, hello and info, and set hello will update the hello object, set info will update the info object. And as you could see here, we are making a call to v1 hello, and the response will be stored in get result object. And here, if this hello length, which is the 0, is less than 0, then set hello method will update get result object into hello object. Exact same method is going to happen with the info. So these two functions are going to be called when this dashboard function is going to be rendered, and then the value for the each get request will be stored into hello and info object. Now the code is updated. Get REST object connected is imported from this get, and post REST object is connected from here. And as you could see here, this code is good, that code is good. And if we look into our dashboard code, everything is added here. So this code is working fine so far. Now, as you could see here, that this code shows that whenever we are loading this page, the API calls are made and the result is stored into hello and info object. So if we want to show the hello and info object values, we could add here, we could say JSON.stringify and the hello and here you can see that the message hello is available. If we want to see the message for info, we can say what is the info, and info is here. So now we have data from backend is coming back to us. If you would want to process this in a way that you would want to see the values coming out from info, you could say, in a way is that you could say if info dot the object is result status is equal to error from backend. And after this page will be loaded, you will see that hello from API handler function. So that's code. If you do not want to see here, you could comment this code, and if you are going to look into this, here you could see that hello from API handler function. So it means your backend code is working, and then everything is being checked upon here. Now we are going to add the code for post function. Let me add the code for post. Here is the code where first post data in, it means request type is API, JSON is param, this is CoreUI with Python backend, and request is going to here. So we need to v1, because v1 info has both get and post implemented. So request body is this, and result will be coming out in this object, and that's what we are sending here. So this request will go to backend and result will come back here, and then here we are sending CoreUI with Python backend. We saved it, we reload it, and as you could see here in command line, we could see that request is going to the backend, and from backend it's coming JSON received CoreUI with Python backend. So whatever we are sending, it's being returned, echoed back from the Python backend in the post request. And now if you want to show this post data, you can show this post data here just to prove that your response is being rendered here. So I will not take much here time, and we are going to say post data and load, and you are going to see the post message is written here. So this way we have connected our CoreUI front-end code to the Python backend, and Python backend is returning this message. So just very quick check. Here is the Python code. Here is the info handler. When the post is coming, post is looking for the API. So here is request type, request JSON, and looking to the parameters, and then whatever message is that, it's written that message back to UI again. So that's the implementation of the post code we have in the Python, and exact same result we see when the post message comes back here. So that's the whole implementation for CoreUI front-end connected with Python backend. So here is our code. Most of this code files we don't really need it. So I will go ahead and remove these files. They are not needed. Not needed. So these are the files we needed. There is a Git. We don't need this. Okay, so this is the code. So this code should be updated to the GitHub repo. So this is the code we have just added. Here in our Python backend connect folder, we have both folders available, Python backend and the CoreUI. And here is all of your code. As you could see here, your API code is there. And the code which is available in dashboard is also there. So that's the code. We have checked that code is here for the get and post. That's pretty much it is. So you can now use this code to connect your CoreUI front end with the Python backend. So that's all I wanted to show you. in this tutorial. Let's have a quick recap. In this tutorial, you have seen that how you could use your React CoreUI template code and connect with Python backend in 5 easy steps. First, add the setup proxy and then add the code to it. Next, add your backend API server into your React frontend environment.env file. In the third and fourth step, we have implemented GET and POST connection to the backend. These connectivity are implemented in a function, and that function can be used anywhere where you want to connect with backend, either using GET or the POST RESTful request. Finally, use these GET and POST function wherever in your code you want to connect with backend and collect the response and render those response to your page. So that's all we had in this tutorial, and I would be seeing you in my next tutorial. That's all, my friends. I hope to see you in my next video. If you have enjoyed our content, please like it, share it, and subscribe it. At last, please be good and do good. Thank you.